Have you ever noticed that some people seem suspicious of everyone? No matter what you say, they doubt your intentions. No matter what you do, they assume you're hiding something. They question honesty, loyalty, and trustworthiness in almost everyone they meet. And sometimes, after getting to know them better, you discover something surprising. The person who constantly accuses others of lying is often a liar themselves. The person who is always worried about being cheated on may have cheated before. The person who sees manipulation everywhere may be manipulative themselves. Why does this happen? Why do some people project their own flaws onto others? And why are they often completely unaware they're doing it? The answer lies in one of the most fascinating concepts in psychology: projection. Projection is a defense mechanism of the human mind. When people possess certain thoughts, desires, fears, or behaviors that they don't want to acknowledge, they often unconsciously attribute those traits to other people. In simple words, they assume other people are like them. Think of it this way. Imagine you're wearing blue-tinted glasses. Everywhere you look, the world appears slightly blue. The buildings haven't changed, the trees haven't changed, the sky hasn't changed, the lens has changed. In much the same way, our personality becomes the lens through which we view other people. A liar sees lies. A cheater sees cheating. A manipulator sees manipulation. Not necessarily because those things are actually happening, but because those behaviors are already familiar to them. Let's start with lying. Imagine someone who lies frequently. Maybe they lie to avoid consequences. Maybe they exaggerate stories. Maybe they tell half-truths to gain an advantage. Over time, lying becomes normal. It becomes part of their understanding of human behavior. Since they know how easy it is to lie, they begin assuming everyone else is doing the same thing. When a coworker gives an explanation, they suspect it's a cover story. When a friend tells them where they were, they assume details are being hidden. When a partner says, "You can trust me," they often think, "That's exactly what a liar would say." Why? Because that's what they would do. Their own behavior becomes the standard by which they judge everyone else. The same thing often happens with cheating. Someone who has cheated knows all the tricks. They know how to hide messages. They know how to create excuses. They know how to delete evidence. They know how easy it can be to deceive someone who trusts you. Because they understand the process so well, they become highly sensitive to anything that resembles it. A late-night text message suddenly becomes suspicious. An extra hour at work feels questionable. A forgotten phone call starts triggering doubt. Even completely innocent behaviors can begin to look like evidence. The irony is that their suspicion often says more about their own mindset than about their partner's behavior. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as the false consensus effect. People naturally assume that others think and behave the same way they do. If someone is honest, they often assume others are honest. If someone is generous, they expect generosity from others. If someone is loyal, they tend to trust people more easily. But if someone is dishonest, selfish, or manipulative, they often assume those qualities are everywhere. Their inner world becomes their model of the outside world. This is one reason why two people can experience the exact same situation and reach completely different conclusions. One person sees kindness, another sees manipulation. One sees honesty, another sees deception. The event is the same. The interpretation is different. And that interpretation is often influenced by who they are. Now, it's important to understand something. Not every suspicious person is dishonest. Sometimes people become suspicious because they've been hurt. Someone who was betrayed by a spouse may struggle to trust again. Someone who grew up around constant dishonesty may become cautious. Someone who experienced repeated manipulation may become hypervigilant. These reactions are not necessarily projection. They may be emotional scars from real experiences. This is why psychology is never black and white. Human behavior is complex. However, when someone consistently assumes the worst about everyone, regardless of evidence, projection often plays a significant role. One of the most interesting things about projection is that it's usually unconscious. People don't wake up and think, "I'm going to accuse everyone of doing what I do." Instead, they genuinely believe their suspicions are accurate. To them, it feels like common sense. Their brain quietly filters reality through their own experiences and behaviors. And because they don't recognize the filter, they assume they're seeing the world exactly as it is. This creates a dangerous cycle. The more suspicious they become, the more evidence they start looking for. The more evidence they look for, the more they interpret innocent actions as suspicious. And the more suspicious they become, the more convinced they are that everyone is dishonest. Eventually, they create a reality that reinforces their beliefs. This phenomenon can damage relationships. Imagine being in a relationship with someone who constantly accuses you of lying. No matter how honest you are, they don't believe you. No matter how transparent you are, they remain suspicious. Over time, trust begins to break down. Not because you're dishonest, but because their projections prevent them from seeing you clearly. Projection can also damage friendships. It can destroy workplace relationships. It can even affect families. Many conflicts are not caused by what people actually do. They're caused by what people assume others are doing. This is why self-awareness is so powerful. The more aware we become of our own behavior, the less likely we are to project it onto others. Before judging someone, it's helpful to pause and ask, am I reacting to reality, or am I reacting to my own fears? Before assuming someone is dishonest, ask, what actual evidence do I have? Before assuming someone has bad intentions, ask, could there be another explanation? These simple questions can dramatically improve our relationships and decision-making. Here's another interesting observation. People often reveal themselves through the accusations they make. Someone constantly talking about betrayal may be carrying guilt. Someone obsessed with dishonesty may have their own issues with honesty. Someone who constantly suspects manipulation may be using manipulation themselves. Of course, this isn't always true, but it happens often enough that psychologists pay close attention to it. The qualities we notice most intensely in others sometimes reflect qualities we haven't fully examined within ourselves. The ancient philosopher Carl Jung once suggested that what irritates us most about others can teach us something important about ourselves. In other words, our strongest judgments often point inward as much as they point outward. This idea can be uncomfortable. It's easier to blame others. It's harder to look in the mirror. But growth begins with self-examination. The healthiest people are not those who never make mistakes. They're the people who are willing to recognize their own flaws. They're willing to ask difficult questions. They're willing to challenge their assumptions. They're willing to admit when their perceptions might be wrong. And because of that, they see others more clearly. In the end, the world we see is often influenced by the person doing the seeing. A dishonest mind expects dishonesty. A fearful mind expects danger. A loving mind sees opportunities for connection. A trusting mind sees possibilities. The world matters, but the lens matters too. So the next time you hear someone saying, "Everyone lies," "Everyone cheats," or "Nobody can be trusted," take a moment to think about what might be shaping that belief. Sometimes they're describing the world, but sometimes they're describing themselves. Because in many cases, we don't see people as they are. We see people through the lens of who we are. And understanding that truth may be one of the most important steps toward healthier relationships, greater self-awareness, and a more accurate understanding of human nature. Thank you for watching.